Thanks a Lot Universe by Chad Lucas. Chapter 21. Horse. Brian. A sunbeam was shining in my eye when I woke. I squinted, trying to remember where I was. More urgently, I needed to pee. I climbed out of bed and stepped over a sleeping bag, which reminded me I was in Gabe's room. Embarrassing memories for permanent storage and frequent recall. 1. Being so scared you thought you were literally going to die. 2. Crying all over a guy you just met like a toddler. 3. Being so tired and messed up you couldn't put a sentence together. 4. Gabe practically carrying you to bed, like a toddler. After I finished in the bathroom, I found Gabe in the kitchen, cooking eggs and mumbling rap lyrics. The kitchen clock said it was almost 1 p.m. Gabe popped out his earbuds. Hey, I told Mom you weren't feeling well and we let you sleep. It's exam week and I don't have any tests today, so I was home anyway. He pointed his spatula toward the table. Hungry? Brunch is almost ready. My self-conscious came flooding back. Sorry about last night, I said. Sorry I stole your bed. Don't be sorry, Gabe said. Has that ever happened to you before? I shook my head. He slid me a plate of bacon and eggs. Want to talk about it? I threw him a silent, vigorous no way. He shrugged. Okay, but it's not unusual. One of my friends has panic attacks sometimes. I know a few people who do, actually. High school's like anxiety central. My face must have said everything because Gabe gave a sheepish laugh. That wasn't helpful, huh? How about I shut up now? We ate in awkward silence. I didn't want to be this way with Gabe. He was being so nice to me. But every time I looked at him, I remembered blubbering on his shoulder, and I felt so small. Maybe it was the penalty for ice mode. I had tricked myself into thinking I didn't have to feel anything, but everything I buried came bubbling up and exploded. Gabe finished eating and wiped his mouth. Ezra said you're on the basketball team. Want to shoot around in the driveway? Shooting seemed not terrifying, so I agreed. Basketball was the one thing that slowed my brain and made me feel normal anymore. I cleaned up and met him in the driveway. After taking a few shots to get loose, I hit 3 in a row. 4, 5. Gabe whistled. I see how it is. You're a ginger Steph Curry, huh? How about a game of horse? I couldn't help smiling. Okay. Gabe was big and quick, and he would have crushed me one-on-one, but horse was a shooting contest. Maybe I could hang with him. We traded makes and misses. When we were both at HO, Gabe said, let's make this interesting. I win, you tell me why you were in the middle of nowhere yesterday. You win, I'll tell you about my dad. I froze. Had this been Gabe's plan all along, to trick me into talking? I didn't want that. Well, maybe I did. I'd told the runaway story to Ezra and it wasn't a disaster. I'd made him laugh and it felt good. I gulped. Okay. Great, my turn. He sank a turnaround fade. My attempt clinked off the rim. HOR. 2 more misses and I was done. Then I caught fire. Gabe matched a few of my shots, but I got him to HORS and swished a long bomb from the middle of the street. His heave was short and thunked against the garage door. HORSE. I won. Gabe fell to his knees in mock despair. I threw my arms in the air. With a dramatic sigh, he picked himself up and gave me a congratulatory fist bump. Nice shooting, Gabe said as we sat down on the front steps. You must light it up at school. Winning made me feel good enough to be honest. Not really, I get nervous in games. Huh, well I guess I owe you a story. Gabe spun the ball in his hands. I didn't cry for a week after Dad died. I was too pissed at him for dying on me. How weird is that? I looked up. He was really going to do this? At the funeral, everyone talked like he was a hero, and I wanted to punch somebody, Gabe continued. A couple of days later, I went for a run, trying to get this thing out of my chest. I ended up at the States' house. Oliver opened the door, and I started venting at him, right on his doorstep. I expected him to try to calm me down, tell me you shouldn't be mad at your dad when he dies saving the country, but he didn't. He said, you feel whatever you need to feel, Gabe. I told him I didn't want to be mad anymore. That's when I fell apart. Even as he said it, his voice cracked. I pulled my knees to my chest. You don't have to. You can stop. Gabe swallowed hard. It's all right. I used to hate crying in front of people, but I got over it. Anyway, that's it. There's no happy ending. It still hurts. Father's Day last Sunday was real hard. I hung out at Oliver's all afternoon, and it helps that I can talk to him. But sometimes it still hits me that Dad will never see me graduate or play college basketball. He's still gone. It actually felt comforting to hear Gabe be honest. Every time an adult talked to me about the incident, I wanted to disappear, but Gabe was different. He fell quiet, waiting for me to talk. That's how it was supposed to go, right? He told me his tragic story, so I'd open up and do the same. The words swirled in my head, straining to come out, but they got stuck in my throat. Thanks for telling me, I mumbled. I could maybe use a shower now. He wrinkled his nose. Maybe? Honestly, you are right, my dude. Did you pack deodorant on your expedition to the forest? I could lend you some body spray. I'm good, I smiled. Gabe found me a towel. Before I showered, I checked my phone. Ezra sent a message. Hey, want to hang out this afternoon? Mrs. Cullen said I could come over. Sounds great, I wrote back. Was it really that simple? Was this how normal kids made plans? After I showered and dressed, Gabe called to me from the kitchen. My heart locked up when I saw Kate was with him. She had our suitcases. I brought the rest of your things, she said. Do you want to check and make sure we didn't miss anything? Then we need to talk. Kate was the last person I wanted to talk to. I retreated to the yellow bedroom and took my sweet time checking my suitcase. Everything was there, so I guess we were officially not going back to the Wensels. I was relieved and grateful to be spared an awkward goodbye, but the thought of Kate and Emma gathering my stuff still bugged me. Gabe was still in the kitchen when I returned. Do you want me to stay, or... I shook my head. I didn't want him hearing whatever lecture Kate was about to give. He hovered for another moment before he retreated to the basement. After he left, I gave Kate an envelope. This is for the Wensels. Don't open it. She eyed it like I'd handed her a letter bomb. What is it? An apology? Oh. She didn't need to know I had wrapped 7 $20 bills inside a sheet of loose leaf with a handwritten note. Dear Emma and Gordon, sorry I worried you and sorry I borrowed your credit card. This should cover it. P.S. I know you tried. Richie liked your cake. Thank you. I was a mess, but I wasn't a thief, and I knew none of this was the Wensels' fault. With another puzzled look, Kate tucked the envelope in her bag. She pulled out another envelope, a big brown one. Here's the situation, Brian. She topped the envelope. It's unusual to place a child with their teacher. I wouldn't have considered it if your mother hadn't agreed. It still stirred a flood in my brain to think that Mom and Mrs. Cullen had worked this out. Mom is allowed to decide now. That means she must be doing better, right? Kate pressed on. People are taking chances on you here, especially after you ran away. If things don't work here, we'll have to consider more secure options, like a group home. Imagining a group home made me shudder. Being stuck with the Wensels had been hard enough. Being surrounded by more strangers and other kids I didn't know would be worse. I won't run away again, I said. I promise. I want to be here. Glad to hear it. Kate slid the envelope toward me. I need you to fill this out. Warily, I opened it. The papers inside resembled the multiple-choice bubble sheets that came with provincial exams in school. For each statement below, choose the response that most applies to you. 1 equals never. 2 equals rarely. 3 equals sometimes. 4 equals often. 5 equals consistently. I feel distant from my peers. I have trouble sleeping. I think about harming myself or others. I enjoy taking risks. I have recurring headaches, stomach aches, or other physical pains. I have persistent negative thoughts that don't go away. A psychological assessment. Kate really did think I was losing it. I nearly threw it at her. Forget it. Kate slid it back. It's not optional. Your teacher's going to bat for you, and it's my job to ensure that she has the support she needs. You're a bright kid, Brian. I know you've been through a lot, but it would be nice to know you're willing to let people help. I understand. I'd made her job miserable, but now she had something I wanted. This was blackmail. Fine, I said reluctantly. Kate nodded. I'll step outside and give you time to fill it out. We'll make an appointment for a professional to discuss it with you soon. I didn't ask what that meant. I waited for her to leave before I looked at the sheet again. My stomach twitched. I hated multiple-choice tests, even when I knew an answer. I second-guessed that another option might be better. This was the worst test ever. Screw up and I'd get a label. Troubled, disturbed, sick. Kate might decide it wasn't safe for Mrs. Cullen to keep me and stick me in a group home anyway. I tried to describe myself in the most normal terms possible. I considered shading all the never bubbles, but surely they had a diagnosis for kids who pulled that stunt. After I finished, I doubted my answers. I erased a few bubbles and picked others, until I worried someone would notice and judge this too. Evaluation. This kid is such a mess he can't even decide what kind of mess he is. Diagnosis? Doomed. Chapter 22. Elbows and Playlists. Ezra. My mom is hands-off with most things, but she has a hang-up about glasses. She has this traumatic story about losing her first pair in a tropical storm, so she's weirdly intense about eyewear. She made me get a dorky set of plastic-rimmed sport glasses for gym and basketball. I was halfway to the Clellans after school when I remembered they were still in my locker. We walked to the court near the Clellans and played 2-on-2, Gabe and Richie against Brian and me. Gabe took it easy at first, passing to Richie most of the time. Then I made a shot and Brian hit 2 in a row. I gave him a high five. Good shooting. So it's like that, huh? Gabe grinned. Suddenly, he was everywhere. Brian and I had to double team him to slow him down. I tried to sneak up from behind and steal the ball, just as he pivoted, planting his elbow in my face. My eyes watered and I fell on my butt. Gabe knelt beside me. Shoot, sorry, are you all right? My glasses were missing. That was the first thing I noticed, because everything was blurry. Then my nose began to throb, and my cheeks stung from where the frames dug into my skin before going flying. Here, Brian handed me my glasses. You're bleeding. I touched the raw spot on my cheek. No, your nose. A drop slid across my lips. Then the drip became a gush. Oh man, Gabe moaned. He helped me to my feet. I pinched my nose with one hand and set my glasses in place with another. They sat so lopsided and that I took them off and stuck them in my pocket. I'm so sorry, Gabe said. I'll pay for those. It's okay. I sounded like a muppet with my nose pinched. I have another pair at home. Gabe sighed. Let's go clean you up. Mom's going to freak out. Can you see? Brian asked. Do you need me to guide you? He was half teasing. I'll live, I said. Just point me toward the right fuzzy blob. Brian put on a serious coach voice. That was a major lack of sizzle sauce, Ezra. I laughed, and blood shot out of my nose. Brian swore in surprise, which made me laugh harder and spray more blood. I pinched my nose tighter. Definite sizzle deficiency, I said. Brian's hand was on my shoulder. He stood so close I could feel the in and out of his breath, still heavy from playing ball. Don't be weird, think about something else. That did not work at all. My nose stopped gushing before we reached the house, but Mrs. Cullen still gasped at my blood-spattered shirt. Brittany had shown up, and she and Mrs. Cullen lectured Gabe as they brought me ice and a washcloth and lemonade. Gabe apologized again. I repeated that I was okay and I didn't need a bandage and my nose was not broken, and Mrs. Cullen didn't have to call my mom. It was all pretty embarrassing. That was so much blood, Richie said cheerfully. We should do something about your shirt before it stains, Mrs. Cullen said. Cold water and peroxide will get out blood, Brittany offered. Gabe raised an eyebrow. Should I be impressed or disturbed that you know that? She stuck her tongue out at him. I can lend you another shirt, Brian said. I followed him to a bedroom that belonged to someone who loved male pop stars. Nice, huh? Brian joked. I decorated myself, obviously. I looked away from a poster of a dark-haired guy in a tank top. I didn't love his music, but I thought he was cute. It was only a joke, right? Unless it was Brian's way of saying, ha, those posters obviously aren't mine because I'd never want to look at boys. What if he was a total homophobe? What if he'd think I was gross that I liked him? My chest ached. It wasn't fair that this was so hard. Are you okay? Brian asked. I must have been quiet for too long. I touched my nose. Sorry, zoned out for a second. My head still hurts. It was a rotten lie, and I hated it. He rooted through a suitcase, then brought me a t-shirt. Hopefully this fits. I should have packed more the day I left home. He looked away. Do you want me to go out? It's okay. I wasn't going to be weird about changing in front of him. I'd done it in the locker room plenty of times. I pulled off my bloody t-shirt and slipped his clean one over my head. Brian was taller and slimmer than me, but it fit. Thanks, I said. I'll bring it back tomorrow, and I'll try not to bleed on it. Stay away from Gabe's elbows. Poor Gabe, he feels so bad, I laughed. He's really nice. Yeah, he's been good to me. Brian ran a hand through his hair. I wasn't sure at first, but I'm glad I'm here. I mean, I'd rather be home, but, you know. Do you know when your mom will get out of the hospital? I asked. No, he paused. Yesterday, you were going to tell me what she said. Oh, right. I thought back to the hospital. She wanted me to tell you she was sorry, and she gave me a hug. She definitely misses you a lot. Brian went quiet. He sat with his chin on his hands. I shuffled my feet. I can leave if you want a minute. I haven't even visited, not since. He trailed off. Do you want to go? I said. I can go with you if you want. He stared at me in disbelief. Was that too much to offer? I went sweaty. I mean, if it would help, I could bring my guitar and play Eye of the Tiger like you're in a movie montage. Brian laughed. My whole body tingled. I should probably just go, he said, but thanks for the offer. Sure. I mean it, thank you. He was so sincere as he looked into my eyes. In a movie, this was the moment I would summon my courage and kiss him, even just on the cheek. But if I tried in real life, he might freak out and I'd ruin everything. I cleared my throat. I should do something about my shirt. You'll have a good story at school about how Mrs. Cullen's son beat you up, Brian paused. Or you could say I did it. Might as well build my reputation as a total psycho. It was a joke, but I caught the edge in his voice. Don't say that. Anyone who talks about you like that is a jerk. Forget them, I said. Oh, said to tell you that you're invited to his party on Friday. Brian looked up. What? You should come. It'll be fun. He went quiet. I'll think about it. Mom got dramatic when she saw me. Ezra, what happened to your face? Where are your glasses? Once I assured her I was fine, she immediately drove me to the optician. The store was closing up, but Mom convinced the man locking the door that it was an emergency. He straightened my mangled frames and nodded in satisfaction as I set them on my face. All as good as new, he said. Check his eyes, Mom insisted. Make sure he's not injured. The man frowned. Ma'am, I'm an optician, not an ophthalmologist. You look at eyes all day, Mom countered. Surely you can tell if he's got a scratch. Sometimes Mom's lawyer side kicked in and she got incensed. The optician sighed and motioned for me to take off my glasses. He pressed his eye-measuring thingy to my nose and told me to stare straight ahead. The metal nosepiece stung against my scratched face. All clear, he declared. Mom smiled sweetly. Thank you. You should carry your sports glasses in your backpack, she insisted on the way home. Don't leave them in your locker, and be more careful, honey. You only get one set of eyes. She brushed my cheek with her fingertips. Maybe she was overreacting, but as I thought about Brian and his mom, I didn't mind my mom fussing over me. I was lounging on my bed, practicing a guitar riff, when my phone played a familiar song that meant Nat was video calling. Ouch, she grated as she popped into view. What happened to your face? I took an elbow playing basketball. I like that you have a sporty side. You're very well-rounded, Ezra. I grinned. It was good to see her. She gave me some new music recommendations and asked what I was learning on guitar lately. I played a little for her. Eventually she said, So, what is it? What is what? I asked. You tell me. Tell you what? I'm confused. You're fidgety, like something's on your mind. What makes you say that? Big sister radar. Am I wrong? I tugged at the neck of Brian's t-shirt. Not really. I guess I could use your advice. Of course. She leaned closer to her camera. I wiped my palms on my shorts. Well, what's the best way to tell someone that you like them? Nat broke out in a smile. I had a suspicion it was crush-related. That's easy. Be honest. Honesty is everything in relationships. But what if... Ugh, why was this so hard? Even with the person who knew me best. I knew Nat wouldn't judge me. She had gay and bi best friends in school. But I still struggled to tell her. What if they don't like you back and it changes things? How do you stay friends? Oh, Ezra, I can't promise that won't happen or that it won't hurt, but if they're decent, they'll appreciate your honesty and won't let it ruin your friendship. What if it's more complicated? Deep breaths. Say if the person I like is a boy. Nat didn't look surprised. She didn't even pause. Is it Colby? What? No, I mean, I used to, but I'm over it. Good, you deserve better. I grinned, mostly out of relief. I told my sister, and it didn't faze her at all. So who is this mysterious crush, she asked. Everything poured out. I barely stopped for breath as I told her about Brian. Her eyebrows bunched together. Wow, that is complicated. He sounds sweet and sad, like he could use somebody to talk to. Yeah, but it's not like I feel sorry for him. I really like him, Nat. I have for months. I was just afraid to admit it. Saying it out loud felt incredible. For a second, I wanted to run around the house, my neighborhood, all of Halifax, yelling at the top of my lungs, I like Brian Day! Nat smiled. I can tell. Don't rush, though. I know I told you to be honest, but sometimes timing is everything. Sounds like he needs a friend first. I know. Thanks, Nat. This helped a lot. Her eyes went misty. Thanks for telling me. Miss you, Ezzy. I wish I was close enough to give you a big hug. A lump clogged my throat. Me too. After I said goodnight to Nat, I started a playlist for Ty's party. I'd gone to school dances and I knew which songs got people moving, but I also sprinkled in some personal touches to make people go, hey, what's that? As I picked those songs, I imagined another playlist, one for Brian. Everybody had a soundtrack in my head. Nat was a yeah, yeah, yeah song she had played on repeat for a solid month in high school. Ty was a Drake track that he sang all the time just because it drove Colby bananas. I hadn't settled on Brian's yet, but maybe his would be somewhere on the playlist. I started crafting for him after I finished the party playlist. I picked songs that cheered me up and mopey tracks for wallowing in a mood. Songs I bellowed when no one was home, and quiet songs that were so gorgeous I listened to them on headphones while lying perfectly still so I didn't miss a note. After I arranged them in the right order, embarrassment washed over me. It was way too personal. These songs were me. Maybe he'd think it was too weird. My finger hovered over the delete button. Instead, I swallowed and sent him a link. Yeah, it was personal, but maybe it would cheer him up, or at least distract him from the stuff he was dealing with. I had to take a chance. Be honest, like Nat said. This was step 1.